What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mental Corner podcast, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk all the things mental health. I'm your host, Harry Potvin, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Deborah Hawkins. In 2010, Deborah started blogging on mindfulness and gratitude to help bring herself out of depression. Additionally, she teaches and supports people in mindfulness and gratitude applications so that they can go live a happier life. Deborah was a blast to talk to, and I really want to thank her again for coming on and having this discussion with me. Also, I don't know if you guys have been out yet since the passports were implemented or anything, but man, you go to bars now and you're not allowed to dance. The dance floors are all closed. I went last night and they were playing the best music. It was so torturous. We were sitting in the chair and they were playing like hits from back when clubs and bars were open, and you're sitting in your chair and your hips start to move and your arms start to move, and then they're like, "Hey, just make sure you're sitting down while you're dancing." I don't know, man. I'm very excited for the day that we can dance again, because that was one of the many joys in my life. So I don't know. I'm. Can you guys relate to that? I'm sure some of you can. So let me know if you guys can relate to that, and if you're excited for dancing to come back. And man, if you're in the vicinity of me when the dance bars open up again, watch out. Now, before we get started here, guys, you know the drill. If you're listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, give 5 stars if you're on that podcast platform. Share with someone who might want to hear this episode. It's a really great one, and I can't wait for you to listen. I'll talk to y'all very soon. Have a great rest of your day. Peace. 3, 2, 1. We are good. Deborah, what's going on? Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Harry. Thank you for having me.
I can't wait. So before we get into anything, I just wanted to get to know you a little bit better. So where does your kind of story, not just with practicing gratitude, but your whole journey with mental health, where does that kind of start?
I think actually talking about my personal story as beginning is a good way to understand my segue into using gratitude to uplift my mood. I believe that everybody is born into like a family drama. And so like before you're born, actually, how your parents or sisters or brothers or neighborhood interacts really affects how you live, how you interpret the world. And it's funny when I think about writing and reading that sometimes you realize when you're reading something that you don't have a reliable narrator. Very often when you're a kid, you don't realize you can't trust what your parents are telling you or what the world is telling you. But you make decisions about how you go forward, how you want to live, how your psyche develops early on. And it's often not till much, much later in your life that you realize, oh no, I don't have to believe that. So before I was born, I had a sister that died in a car accident. And I had a sister, later a sister was born a year before me. And she was treated like forgiveness to my mother and father. She was like, the world gave them for this accident where my other sister died. So she got away with a lot of things. So she used to like abuse me and hurt me, and that's not unusual. Kids will, act out on each other. But what was unusual was my parents allowed that. So my parents pretty much allowed me to get hurt by my sister because they didn't want to ruffle her emotions, her feelings, because her psyche was too important to them. So I developed an attitude early in life that I wasn't worth much because I wasn't worth my parents protecting me. And basically nobody would listen to what I had to say. Like I used to say, please stop this. This is a problem. Please stop this. And nobody intervened. So I'm not saying this because I have an unusual situation. I think so many people have stories from their childhood that could probably break your hearts. But I think this is kind of important to realize how I functioned for most of my life, thinking that feeling worthless was pretty normal.
Hmm.
You know, I didn't cause anything that grated me. My sister provoked my sister to beat me, but she did. She got away with it, and I couldn't do anything to stop her. So it became pretty normal for me to accept that I was not protected. I was not really worth a lot of things. And this as a child, and this sort of led to job disappointments, relationship disappointments, a lot of circumstances where I just didn't feel good about myself. So this is pretty important background and really important to understand why my understanding, my realization of gratitude was so important to me. I'll give you a little example. When I was in my 20s, I felt so bad about myself, what I did for a living. I worked in the customer service department, nothing wrong with that, but I didn't feel it was like important enough. Nothing I could do was very important. So I remember like when I'd be in a bar out to meet people, and so a guy might approach me and say, "What do you do?" So I dreaded that question. I didn't want to talk about what I did. I didn't feel good about it. So I would say, "I'm a female impersonator." Well, of course, I was just trying to confuse him and trying to deflect that I didn't feel good, but I would say things to be clever or to be to unnerve somebody else because I couldn't feel good about myself. So these types of things went on and on and on. And I was like at a low point when I was just about 50. I'm 64 now. I moved to another city to try to get a job, and that didn't work. And I moved back to Chicago. And within a few months of moving back, I had a car accident. I only worked part-time. I was really at a low point, and I decided I had to do something. So I decided that looking for positive things, looking for things I could be grateful for would be a little reason I could uplift myself. I also thought it was very important for me to do that because I was to start a blog because I was a writer who wasn't writing. And I thought just the sheer act of writing would be important to remind me who I was. So I started writing a blog called nosmallthing.net. And the idea was I would actually reflect on a little thing in my daily life that I was grateful for. And I realized that I did need a huge windfall. I did need to win the lottery. All that mattered was where I put my attention on and noticing that it provided good or uplifting feelings in me. And I did that for several years. And at first, it was just wonderful to realize that because I had this blog, I was looking for things to write about. So that itself uplifted me. But then I started to reread all the things I wrote. And I realized that tended to write about a handful of themes. And I decided that everybody has themes.
Hmm.
And I came up with this process where if you could identify your themes, you could not only experience gratitude in the moment, but you could use that knowledge of yourself to look at your circumstances and ask yourself whether any of your themes were present. And that would also tend to bring you up.
Right. Awesome. What a great story, Deborah. I have a personal question, if you don't mind me asking.
All right.
Um, was practicing gratitude at first, with everything you had gone through as a child, and then when you were 50, you experienced this car crash, and it was hard to make friends and find jobs and all of this. How hard was it to start practicing gratitude?
Um, do you mean not really hard at all? It was much easier than other types of practices that required me to do something different. So what I was doing was kind of journaling, and I've done different kinds of journaling at different points in my life. So the idea of taking a little thing and writing thoughts about it was not a big stretch for me. What really, I didn't feel like it changed me overnight. It really took time. It took me noticing that, oh, if I was always looking for good things to write about, I wasn't dwelling on bad things.
Mm,
So at first, just the sheer fact that you could only keep one thought in your head at a time, that simple fact of trying to fill yourself with something small that's positive um, keeps you from taking that same time and space to put a negative thought or an obsessive thought there. But then after a while, my good feelings sort of grew. I realized that it was not very hard at all to find things to appreciate. I remember some of my early blogs were about just noticing the unique differences of things. I wrote a whole blog post about the difference between lemons and limes.
mm,
It seems like a simple, stupid thing, but when you really get down into what's happening on a daily basis, it's like an incredible miracle. There's there's so much in being mindful of what is present in your world. It's really incredible. I wrote a blog about having an ice maker in my refrigerator. That's like a little thing, but that was like so wonderful to me
mm.
to, so the idea was that I didn't need anything big to write about. I just needed to give what I saw and what I experienced more attention and more thoughtfulness. And the act of writing it down also helps there. You don't have to write. I realize I like to write, and some people don't like to write. But even just taking time to be thoughtful about what is unique and special about something really matters. It is a choice each person makes to look positively on something. Um, it's a practice of honoring yourself. It's like saying, what I like, what is pretty to me really matters. And there's something just about thinking that your opinions about something matters that
Mm.
makes you feel better about yourself and about the world.
Right. Yeah. Especially when your whole life you told yourself and people told you that your opinion doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, that's actually like a normal. I'm trying to think of where I wanted to go there. That's kind of like a normal practice is like being in the moment, and I feel like you journaling and you practicing that gratitude really grounds you because oftentimes when we're experiencing trauma or we're like reliving things that happened in our past, it just keeps going in our brain and the situation starts getting worse and we don't really address it. And then we feel like this disassociation to the real world because we're so focused up here. So the gratitude practice that you do and the journaling that you do is such a great tool to have because it keeps you present.
Yeah, I think there's something really, like you said, very grounding about journaling and about really uh, uh, focusing on being in the moment. Because if you can stay in the moment, nothing is so bad. Very few things are so bad. And I did go through a lot of disassociation. I don't always feel connected to my body. So
Mm,
it's interesting to me, like you're a swimmer and you're very aware of your body, because so much of my early childhood involved feeling hurt physically. I didn't I didn't go there. I didn't get into my body, or I didn't dwell on how it felt. And there's something very nice about just being in the moment, about taking off your shoes when you come home from work. These little things that are just wonderful. And there's a quote by Eckhart Tolle that was very inspirational to me in my practice. It's acknowledging the good that you already have present in your life is the foundation for all abundance.
mm,
So we could, like, it's easy to focus on lack or comparisons, like, why did this go okay, but this other person did this better, or, and I don't, my practice is very different than some gratitude practices where people would say, well, you're not like starving. I don't know if you remember when I was a kid, and I didn't like to eat something. My mother put it in front of me. I'd hear something, well, people in China or people in such and such place would be happy to eat this. Well, that didn't make me feel good. I just felt bad for the people in that place.
right. Yeah.
But to many people, gratitude was about being thankful for things that other people didn't have, or things that you might have now that you didn't have 5 years ago. And to me, that's not gratitude. It's just a comparison. For gratitude to really affect you and be a powerful, like, force in your life, it has to be authentic. It has to be about something you care about. It can't
Hmm.
be something your teacher or parents or your friends, whatever is trending, tells you this is great. You should be grateful for this. It's like feeling gratitude about something that is authentic to you, that really uplifts you, is is a wonderful thing because it really celebrates who you are.
Right. Well, what's that quote? I think it's comparison is the killer of joy or something.
I can't remember that quote, but I concur with that idea that when you compare things, it's like you're not enjoying what you really have in front of you. So I definitely think gratitude is not about um, being fortunate compared to somebody else,
Hmm.
or a religious virtue. It's about really tapping into who you are and knowing that what feeds your soul is actually, some of it is right in your life right now.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. It that I've never thought of gratitude that way in the sense like focus on things that are there now as opposed to like, well, I'm doing better than them because that's what you're told gratitude is. It's like be grateful for the fact that you have a roof over your head. And I am, of course, like I'm incredibly fortunate, but thinking of it as I'm grateful for this because they don't have that. That doesn't seem like the right way to go about it.
Right, right. And I don't think it's so big now. Maybe it is, but I don't think comparisons are healthy. And I really think it's wonderful to be encouraged to be different, like
Mm,
to be understood that whatever you feel grateful for or whatever you love is fine. It doesn't have to conform with the kid who gets all A's or the kid down the street or another person, your Beyonce or whatever. It's for you. And that's all that matters.
yeah, I feel like it'd be a little ridiculous to hear what someone's grateful for and then them go, "Wait, no, that's not what I meant. You should be grateful for this." It's like, "What? No. Let me be grateful for what I'm grateful for."
Exactly. I also think like my gratitude practice is very different than probably what the most common kind of journaling is, where people keep a list of things that they were happy for, that happened to them that day. So many years ago, like some researchers, professors did a study where they had three groups, and the first group ended the day writing about 15 things they liked, they were happy about. The second group wrote about, ended the day writing 15 things that they didn't like or that irritated. And the third group wrote about, ended the day writing 15 things that they felt neutral about. And they decided that the people that ended the day, that writing things they were happy about, tended to be happier. They tended to do better in school or work. They had better relationships. All this might be fine and good. I think listing things that you appreciated might be a good way to start being positive, having a positive consciousness.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's at the heart, strikes at the heart of gratitude, because these events are external to you. I think gratitude at its most powerful is internal to you. It's self-directed, it's empowering, and it's personal. In other words, some people say, oh, I have a gratitude practice. I'm really grateful when I get a parking place
Mm.
near where I'm going. And it's nice. This is nice. Or people will say, I got a call from somebody just when I was thinking about them. Well, these things are nice, but it's not, like, to me, a true gratitude, because you're not in control of these things. They're external circumstances that are pleasant, that you're just responding to. And I think that the heart of gratitude is about knowing yourself really well, and identifying things that make you feel grateful. And what in my process, I call these gratitude, personal gratitude themes. So if you know what you were grateful about, you have experiences where you were grateful, and can boil those down to themes that are not more broadly applicable, let's say. You could actually remember those themes in new situations and bring up your mood again.
Mm. I see. So, it, going back a little bit, if we're to take that example that you just used, like I'm grateful that someone I was thinking about texted me, or that I got a parking space. What, in your opinion, what would be an appropriate gratitude saying that, like, instead of that, as a replacement?
I don't, it's not a question of appropriate or not appropriate. If you're happy about that, you should be happy about that. But
Mm.
I'm recommending to go a little bit deeper. I mean, it's a positive thought, and all positive thoughts are good to have, but it's not really a deep, in my understanding, it's not like a deep experience of gratitude. let's say I'm going to ask you, what types of things do you think you're grateful for? Or can you explain an experience you had where you felt especially grateful for that experience?
Myself?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Um, oh man, I'm grateful for a lot of stuff. I think one of the most recent ones, but then again, this isn't really within myself except for the fact that I put work into it. But I got notification that this show was top 2% in the world of all podcasts, and I think I was really grateful in the sense that you know your whole life you hide behind this idea of who you want to be, and you don't share your story and you don't share what you're going through because you're afraid that if you do, you're going to be judged forever and people are just going to push you to the side and not consider you any more of a person. So to be able to not only share my story but to be able to share it for as long and to as many people as I have, I think it really caused me to sit back and be like, damn, like I'm super grateful that I've been given this opportunity to, come back from this super low period and not only help people but share it and let it out as opposed to bottling it in, because that I never want to go back to that, and I
So
don't want people to go through it.
I just listened to you explaining something you're grateful for. If I was going to take this kind of experience or take what you just told me and try to put this in terms of themes, I feel that you were saying that you like to be your authentic self. You're
Mm.
grateful for when you could be your authentic self. You're grateful for having the good opinion of others. And you're also grateful for the opportunity to provide service. So these things seem to be true from your experience, but these are like phrases of one, two, three words, just a few words, and they could be applied outside of this special particular instance. So you might be in a situation where you don't think it's especially, it doesn't provoke gratitude in you. But if you say, ask yourself, do I have, am I being authentic here? Am I maybe earning the good opinion of others? Am I able to provide service? You might like be in a situation where you don't think about being grateful at all,
Right.
but knowing yourself better, knowing what themes you might have around gratitude, you actually could bring your mood up. I'll give you an example. One of my personal gratitude themes is belonging. I really thrive on feeling that I belong, whether it's to a sports, I'm a fan of a sports team, I belong with the other fans, or like in the neighborhood, or my family, or the family of man. I just love belonging. I remember being at a grocery store and I was really irritated because I was waiting in line to check out. And I just looked at all the other faces and I realized they're in line too. And I felt like an incredible sense of belonging to everybody in the store that was waiting in line, that was miserable. And we like smiled at each other. We knew that what I was experiencing was what they were experiencing. And I
Mm.
felt grateful or good to be in this circumstance. So if you know what if you could take a few of your experiences and think about what themes they suggest, you could actually think of how you could apply those themes in other situations and really uplift your spirits. I
Right.
imagine there are other situations where you might also find yourself being authentic and getting the high opinion of others. And you might not think about like, I'm really grateful to be in this situation, But now you could look at that and say, oh, this feels pretty good
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Yeah.
Maybe other people really don't care as much about being of service or other things. It's like being grateful has to be authentic to you.
Right. Well, that goes back to not comparing gratitude to others. Everyone's got different things.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's such an interesting way to look at it because like you're obviously grateful for the basics. Like you're grateful for the roof over your head, you're grateful for food, clean water, health, but I've never really thought about it in the sense where you have to look deeper than that. You have to look at the themes of what you're grateful for because then now, like you said already, we can pinpoint like in a situation, even if things aren't really going my way, I can step back and think, am I being authentic here? It's interesting.
It's like I think corporations do this occasionally. They will review a rollout of, let's say, a new software or a new type of a system, and they'll say, what did we do good and what needs to be improved on? And it's like, this is what being mindful is about to me. It's not just about meditation and deep breathing. Being mindful is about understanding your thoughts and your feelings.
Mm,
And if you really understand what's important to you, you could make sure your actions are moving you in the direction of the things you value.
right.
So, like, I decided when I read all these blog posts of mine, I call them my grateful dozen. You don't have to have 12 themes, but it worked out that I do. So some of my themes are belonging, um, having tourist eyes. I love to be in situations where I feel like a tourist, where not only am I experiencing something new, but I'm very forgiving of myself. So, like, think about being when you were a tourist. If you get lost, you say, oh, I've never been here before. I'm a tourist. You just forgive yourself for so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a wonderful way to live. And I want to be in this kind of mindset. So belonging, having tourist eyes, seeing things of beauty, humor, neighborhood discoveries. I looked at different experiences I had where I knew I was grateful and really contemplated them and boiled them down and tried to understand what was the essence of what made me feel good in that situation. And I, described it, and I realized knowing those things, I could actually see those things. And if you don't know them, you can't see them elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like it's not really the same, but like when I bought my car, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna stand out with this car because that's the first time I've ever seen a Mini Cooper of this color. I'm gonna stand out on the road. It's gonna be sick. And then as soon as I bought it, I saw them everywhere. And I was like, are you kidding? It's kind of like that where once it's pointed out to you, you see it.
Right, right. It's like the same situation in the opposite way. Once it's pointed out to you, once you know this is your the essence of why you're grateful, you start seeing it all over the place, right?
Mm, yeah, that's a great practice to have. So going off of that, um, let's say someone listening is in like a scenario or a situation that's like pretty negative overall. Like it's very hard for them to find anything they're thankful of because the situation that they're experiencing is just super negative. How can they start to practice this kind of gratitude when they can't even find a glimmer of happiness?
Well, I recommend like 3 ways to start looking for your gratitude themes. And one is like the low hanging fruit. Just remember times like I asked you to think of a situation or a time when you really felt happy, where you really were aware of feeling grateful, and you could riff off of that. Another thing I think about is called exploring a peak experience. And that's often not something that's the current situation. It's like you're going to face resistance when you're not happy and you're looking at the current life or current situation, which is part of why you're not happy. So that's not where you're going to get this. So it's good that you know these themes before you're in this situation. So you might look at a peak experience. Some of my best experiences have been on vacation. And really look at those experiences and understand what was really special to you in that situation. Some people, like I shared some of my themes. Other people like to be creativity, it could be cooking. So you'd be like limited if you could only be happy when you were cooking. But if you went further and looked at the essence of that, like putting things together or being creative or whatever, you could apply that to other situations. And it's hard to like make yourself feel good when you're feeling bad if all you're doing is looking at your current situation. But if you are prepared in advance of knowing yourself, like what kinds of situations and what kinds of things make you happy, and practice. It's not something you do maybe automatically, but you can practice. Sing, it's like a game. Sing how some of those things might be in the current situation. One of the other things I recommend as a way to get to your themes is looking at photographs. So I often tell people if they have their cell phone camera nearby or a gallery of picture photographs, to look at them occasionally and ask themselves, if they notice themselves smiling, to ask themselves why they were smiling or what made them feel good or what is special about that picture, and go through that process again of identifying the essence of why they felt uplifted in that situation.
Right.
And by knowing themselves, look at their current situation. Like the story I gave you before about being in the checkout line. If I only looked at the current situation, I wouldn't find a way out. But
Right.
it's like knowing yourself, knowing what is positive, and even people that are often depressed or often unhappy probably have some childhood memories or memories from other circumstances where things were okay. And if they know how they could apply them to the current situation, not just apply them, but actually find them, practice finding those little seeds of things. I think that's can be good. And I think that's realistic, because I don't think it's realistic to think that one little thing is going to turn your life around.
Right.
But incrementally, if you feel 10% or 20% better when you think of something, then if you realize you brought yourself up every day a little bit, you start working your way out of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I like what you said about practice and how it makes, like, how a couple times, it's going to take a while for you to start doing this practice naturally, because, it's something that's so hardwired into our brain, like the negative bias. Like, it's a part of our biology. Like, it's our brain trying to protect us from negative things going on. It wants to protect us from all these negative things, so it highlights them. Like, look, there's danger over there. So practicing it is key, because anyone who thinks that, you're gonna all of a sudden be grateful for these little positive things when for thousands, whatever of years, we've been told to focus on the negative. Like it's not that easy.
No, it's not. And we've been given a lot of things to, I think somebody figured out that people think so many thousand thoughts a second. But the reason we don't go crazy is most of a minute, rather. We don't go crazy because so many of those thoughts are habitual, are thoughts we probably thought the day before or the day before. So it's easier in some ways, but it's also like hard to introduce a new way of thinking to yourself.
Right.
And it takes practice. And all I could recommend is that to spend some time to be in the moment and just ask yourself, what am I thinking and feeling right now?
Mm.
And give yourself a choice. You could re-choose to think differently. And now that you know more about yourself, you could choose to think differently, but also choose to bring in what you know about yourself that you didn't know about yourself 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, whatever. I think being in the moment informs a person what their themes might be, and their themes might inform them how they could be more positive in the moment. So like sometimes like I get ideas for blog posts just by being in the moment. Today I was at the grocery store and they just repaved the blacktop. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but I was so happy just thinking that I wouldn't have to go there with the shopping cart and put away my groceries, and the cart would like take off because the carts in parking lots never are level.
Right.
I was really happy for something so small. This was just in my mind. I was just in the moment. I was just really, it was no comparison. I was just happy this little change happened. And so being in the moment informs me about what is important to me, but sometimes I could be in the moment, not especially grateful or happy, and I will bring in one my themes, and I realize like it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with this. There's a lot of wonderful things in this moment.
I get that exact kind of sentiment when I'm listening to a really good song, because not because the song's good, but because it like the way it makes me feel. I'm like, okay, life really isn't. It can't be that bad.
Yeah, it's yes. Music is really beautiful, but it's really interesting to think about the essence of why the music, what happened to you? Why were you transformed? Why were you more open to being in a positive frame of mind?
Mm.
It's like I have a dog that I love dearly, and I know other people that love their pets or animals, and each person might have a totally different reason why they are grateful to have a pet. Like some people love having a pet because their pet reminds them to be spontaneous and play. Other people really love the fact that they have physical closeness. Maybe they live alone and their pet is like their connection with being physically close to somebody. Other people might really love having a pet because they have a shared history with them. So each person might all love a pet, love having a pet, but have totally different reasons. Their themes might be different. Their core reason why they're grateful or happy in this moment might be different. So I think it's very interesting that you really love music. And I don't want to make it like miserable for you by trying to overanalyze it. I know that there's that tends to say with me, but it's wonderful to look at some things a little bit deeper, one step deeper, to understand if there's something you love about this experience that you could actually apply to other kinds of experiences.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, what's so beautiful about not just music, but it kind of is like an analogy for life, is that you pick one song and you play it in a room with five different people, and those five people will probably love a different part of the song than the other one. Like something in that chord or that beat or that line that the person sings is going to hit every person differently. And it's kind of like what you were talking about with gratitude. Everyone is going to go through a situation and all experience a different kind of either gratitude or get affected or impacted a different way. I think it can be, you can look at it in a negative way, but I think that's the beautiful thing of life is that everyone has their own viewpoint.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's wonderful that there's like a natural diversity about things. People are all unique individuals. And in some ways, I want to celebrate our uniqueness, but also I recognize that in sharing this, that we're all the same. It's like a conundrum that we're all unique. And because we're all unique, we're all the same.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Everybody shares this. Yeah. But I think there's a famous TED talk with a Benedictine monk, David Steindl-Rast, who said, if you want to be happy, be grateful. I feel that it's very hard to like strive for happiness. Sometimes people don't know what it is. And people are all often afraid of losing it. Like, what if I feel really good and something happens? Like, I'm going to lose this. They're like, if they feel happy, they're just waiting for the other shoe to fall. And that's a very tenuous and vulnerable way to live. Like, having been in depression and feeling uncertain about things, it's a terrible way to live. But I really think that gratitude is a wonderful focus. Instead of looking for happiness as a bliss that moment, as a big high, to me, happiness is about knowing how to get back to this grateful state. It's like you can't keep this high all the time. But if you know and you improve your ability to return to this state where you're at worst even, and at best, you're able to look at what you are experiencing and see something positive or something you can appreciate in it, that's a pretty good way to live. Like, it might not be like total bliss, but it's contentment and it's confidence. I explained that having this gratitude practice is a big confidence booster.
Hmm.
I believe that I could go into almost any situation and find something I can genuinely appreciate. And that's really important to me.
Right.
That's wonderful to be aware of. I know the pandemic has been very hard on people, and it's been hard on me, but in some ways, probably not as difficult for me as some people, because my happiness or my sense of gratefulness doesn't depend on what's happening in the world around me. It's comes from within me. So like when I was first aware that I had to like be in lockdown, I couldn't go out except for like shopping once a week, or I had very limited encounters with other people, or very limited time I went out. But I looked at my home and I looked at my exercise equipment. I looked at my comfy couch that I was very happy to sink into. I looked at my remote on my TV and I said, you know, if I would be stuck anywhere, I can't think of a better place to be than my home. So, because I created it, I made it to reflect me. So even though it was a difficult circumstance, I found things to be grateful for within that, because my mode did not depend on what was happening in the world.
Right.
It just depended on how well I knew myself and how well I could see the things I love in the world, that in the moment, in what I was loving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. If you can't be happy, be grateful. I love that quote. Now,
Yeah, I think that's really very simple, but it's a lot of people can relate to it, because people know when they feel good, when they're grateful. And sometimes that's easier to identify than like feeling happy. Sometimes we don't know that we were happy till after it's over.
right. Yes.
So that was great.
Yeah. So I think my last question for you, Deborah, before we get into links and things like that for your website, if you were to, now that you've had all of this experience practicing gratitude and building this confidence that you can go into any situation and find one thing that you're grateful for, if you were to hop in a time machine and you were to go back to the young you who was going through all of the stuff that you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, what would be like one piece of advice to give her?
Um, I would tell her that she's perfect.
Wow. Mm. Mm.
Not just from the sense of gratitude, what she loves, what she aspires to, what she dreams about is fine. It doesn't have to conform to anybody else's thoughts or feelings. And I think that if we understood ourselves better as being perfect, that's not that we don't want to accomplish things, but to know that we're perfect as it is, we'd have a lot more happy people.
I 1000% agree. That that hit a little different. I'm not gonna lie. You saying that whew, yeah, that was beautiful. Well, Deborah, if my listeners want to learn more about you or to learn more about your gratitude practice, where can they go? Where should they find you?
Sure. I've been blogging since 2010. My website is now expanded, but the blog is still up there. It's called nosmallthing.net. So that will give you some explanation about my courses and the books I have available. I also have a Linktree account, and my handle is Grateful Deb.
Awesome. I will.
And that's an easy way to kind of, in a snapshot, see what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. 100%. I'll put those links down below. If no one's told you today, Deborah, you are perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to all my listeners, I will see you guys next time.